Hello and welcome to Mickeyology, where we take Disney a little too seriously. I'm Austin Wrathall. Recently, Marvel dropped a new animated series on Disney Plus called Eyes of Wakanda. I didn't know anything about this show before it premiered, but I was happily surprised to learn that it's a historical show. Eyes of Wakanda is an anthology series that follows a secret group of Wakandan agents called the War Dogs who travel the world reclaiming lost Wakandan artifacts. The War Dogs operate in different eras of history and they must infiltrate various civilizations, operating in the background of some major historical events. In other words, it's Black Panther meets Assassin's Creed. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it, especially if you like history. If you have seen it, you might be wondering which parts of the story are based on real history. You might wish you knew more about the events shown in each episode, and you might be curious about what historical Easter eggs are hidden in the show. If that's the case, you clicked on the right video, because I saw this show and I thought,
perhaps if I offered some historical context, it could help us navigate the state of play.
So we're going to explore the history behind Eyes of Wakanda right here so that you can enjoy the show on an even deeper level. Now please be aware there are spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen the show yet and you don't want spoilers, please pause this video, go watch it, and come back. The show is only 4 episodes long, and we're going to cover both episodes 1 and 2 here in this video. However, if you're curious about the history behind episodes 3 and 4, you can find part 2 of this video over on Patreon, or you can unlock it by becoming a channel member here on YouTube. With that, let's dive into the history behind Eyes of Wakanda Episode 1, Into the Lion's Den. Episode 1 takes place on the Greek island of Crete in 1260 BC. So this story isn't set in ancient Greece, it's set in really ancient Greece. This story takes place centuries before the death of Socrates, the Battle of Thermopylae, the rise of Alexander the Great, and all the stuff that we modern people associate with ancient Greece. It also takes place at a significant turning point in human history. Shortly after 1260 BC came the Bronze Age collapse, a time when many of the mighty civilizations around the Mediterranean suddenly fell apart. Now, there are many theories about what caused this collapse, whether it might have been earthquakes or drought or some other natural disaster, maybe something that disrupted trade networks, and the collapse was probably caused by a combination of these things. However, another intriguing theory says that the collapse was actually caused by a group of maritime raiders called the Sea Peoples. Now, one of the most fascinating things about them is that no one knows their origin. All we know is that they were a destructive force. An inscription at the Medinet Habu Temple in Luxor, Egypt, that dates back to the time of Ramses III, describes them this way. Not one stood before their hands. From Kheta, Kod, Carchemish, Arvad, Alashia, they were wasted. They came with fire prepared before them. Their hearts were confident, full of their plans. Now the Sea Peoples are the villains in Eyes of Wakanda's first episode.
Raiders from the sea!
They appear off the shore of Crete in a fleet of warships, they emerge, and then they conquer, just as the real Sea Peoples are said to have done. Now, another cool thing about the way the show depicts the Sea Peoples is how diverse they are. In the show, the Sea People have different skin tones, clothing, and fighting styles, and historical sources show that the real Sea Peoples were just as diverse as those in the show. In his book 1177, The Year Civilization Collapsed, Eric Cline writes, "Ancient images portray one group with feathered headdresses, while another faction sported skull caps. Still others had horned helmets or went bareheaded. Some had short pointed beards and dressed in short kilts, either bare-chested or with a tunic. Others had no facial hair and wore longer garments, almost like skirts." These observations suggest that the Sea Peoples comprised diverse groups from different geographies and different cultures. So, while the real Sea Peoples may not have looked exactly like the ones in the series, they were just as diverse as their animated versions. Eyes of Wakanda also cleverly explains where the Sea Peoples come from and what makes them so deadly. In the Marvel Universe, the Sea Peoples are led by a rogue Wakandan warrior called the Lion, who uses his Wakandan training and technology to amass an army and conquer other lands. However, a former Dora Milaje warrior named Noni defeats the Lion. Now, the real Sea Peoples were defeated by Egypt shortly after this time, and according to this show, the Egyptians probably owe their victory to Noni, since she was the one who stripped the Sea Peoples of their mighty leader. Episode 2, Legends and Lies, takes place during the Trojan War, the mythical conflict in which the armies of Greece battled the warriors of Troy. While the Trojan War is mythical, there's evidence it really happened. Sources place the war sometime around the year 1250 BC, not long after the era depicted in Eyes of Wakanda's first episode. According to legend, the war began as a fight over a woman named Helen. Helen was the most beautiful woman in Greece. She had so many suitors who wanted to marry her that she risked causing a war. After all, any suitors who didn't marry Helen would be jealous and angry at whoever did. To solve this problem, a man named Odysseus proposed that the suitors take an oath to defend and protect Helen's husband, whoever that man may be. The men agreed, and Helen married Menelaus, king of Sparta. Helen appears in Eyes of Wakanda, but she's not with Menelaus. She's with a man named Paris, who famously stole Helen from Menelaus and took her off to Troy. Since the Greeks had sworn that oath, they joined Menelaus in a war against Troy. Among the men who went off to fight was Odysseus, the guy who came up with the whole alliance idea. We see him in this episode commanding the Greek forces as they assault the gates of Troy. While Odysseus' boys attack the gates, the legendary hero Achilles leads a Greek special ops team over the walls. Achilles is another character from actual Greek mythology, and he's accompanied by another, less famous character, an African warrior named Memnon. Not to be confused with Agamemnon, a Greek king who also fought in the war. Memnon was king of the Ethiopians, and he's mentioned in several different Greek texts, including Homer's Odyssey. Now, while it might surprise some viewers to see a black man fighting in ancient Troy, his physical appearance is based on historical sources. In his book, The Trojan War, historian Barry Strauss writes, "Memnon is too obscure a character for us to be sure that he existed, but it is worth speculating that he might have been black. Memnon came from Ethiopia, a place thought of by the Greeks in various and sometimes vague ways. The term could refer to modern Ethiopia, to any land south of Egypt, especially Sudan, to any land with dark-skinned inhabitants, or to the east, that is, the land of the morning. But one thing is clear. To the Greeks, Ethiopians had skin burned by the sun, so to a Greek, an Ethiopian might have been black." There's evidence that the ancient Greeks depicted Memnon as a black man in their own art. In the 3rd century AD, a Greek named Philostratus wrote a work called Imagenes, in which he described various works of art that he saw. Among the art was an image of the death of Memnon. According to Philostratus, this ancient image of Memnon resembled the character we see in the show. He writes, "See his form, how strong it is. See his downy beard. You would not say that Memnon's skin is really black, for the pure black of it shows a trace of ruddiness." Now, as accurate as the character's design might be, there's one thing very wrong with his depiction here. He's fighting for the wrong side. Legend says Memnon fought for the Trojans, but here he is fighting for the Greeks. Memnon was also said to be Achilles' enemy. In fact, it was Achilles who killed Memnon. However, the show makes them best friends. The show also gets Achilles' death wrong. According to legend, Achilles' mother dipped him in the river Styx when he was a baby, which made every part of his body invincible, except the part his mother dangled him from, his heel. When Paris shot Achilles in that very place, the hero died. The legends say that Memnon and Achilles both died before the end of the war. However, in the show, they lived long enough to participate in the famous Trojan horse plot that brings the war to its end. While all these revisions might seem like inept writing, they're actually a clever play on the episode's theme. The episode is called Legends and Lies, after all, and if its version of the Trojan War seems wrong, that's kind of the point. As Memnon says,
"Legends are lies, my friend. Tales told by those who never did to those who never will."
So in the Marvel Universe, the version of the Trojan War that historians passed down through the ages was a lie. We were told that Achilles and Memnon were enemies, but they were really brothers. And the man we thought was king of the Ethiopians was really a Wakandan spy sent to steal a necklace from Helen of Troy. While legend would have us believe that Paris killed Achilles, it was really Memnon, who used the hero's own blade against him before disappearing back to Wakanda. Like many myths, though, this one has a kernel of truth. During their fight, Memnon slices Achilles across the heel. Like the first Black Panther movie, this story encourages us to question the version of history that past generations have told us.
He was the truth I chose to omit.
You are wrong! All of you are wrong!
And if the study of actual history has proven anything, it's that questioning history can be a very useful exercise. Because after all, scholars used to believe that the legend of the Trojan War was a complete fiction and that the city of Troy never existed. However, archaeological evidence revealed that the city of Troy is real, and therefore, maybe many elements of the Trojan War legend are real too. The story of Wakanda's war dogs continues in episodes 3 and 4 of Eyes of Wakanda, and each of those episodes feature real history as well. But that's going to have to wait for another video. If you would like to see part 2 of this video, please sign up over on Patreon or become a channel member here on YouTube. Also, let me know in the comments if you've watched Eyes of Wakanda, and if so, what did you think? Also, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And as always, thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.